Alright, Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. This is Brother Wariala, and this is my channel, Rise Up Israel. First and foremost, I'd like to give honor and glory to the Heavenly Father, who the world will call God. Many will call him Yahweh, but his real name is Yahweh. And I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, who the world will call Jesus Christ, Yeshua, Joshua, but whose real name is Yahweh Shai in the Paleo Hebrew. And just to do a quick video on a controversial verse or group of verses in the chapter of Deuteronomy 29, where it goes into how many people see as the pre-New Testament understanding of the grafting in. You know, what many people use as to say, well, this is how you know that the Gentiles, are or can be grafted into Israel. And we're going to look into it, right? But before we ever get into it, I'll grab this real quick. Fair use. This is our thoughts and comments on this content. This is for teaching purposes, teaching and learning purposes only. And that's about it. Lord willing, it's that divine video through the Spirit. But let's get to the content.
Deuteronomy 29 verses 9 through 11. All of you stand today before the Lord your God, your chiefs, your elders, your judges, and your teachers, all the men of Israel, your wives and your offspring, and the resident alien in your camp, from the one who cuts your wood to the one who draws your water, that you may enter into the covenant of the Lord your God and into his oath the Lord your God makes with you today. This shows that resident aliens, people who are not from there, people who are not descendants of Jacob, that they can enter into the covenant of the Lord. Many people...
You hear it. People go to this verse to say that the strangers spoken about in Deuteronomy 29 and 10 and 9 through 11, 9 through 12 actually, are able to be grafted in, are able to be a part of the commonwealth of Israel.
Are under the impression that to be a Jew or to be an Israelite, you have to be born one genealogically, that you have to be able to trace your lineage back. A lot of people say patrilineally. Some people say matrilineally. But this shows that that's not true. Deuteronomy 29 verses...
See, so he's going on to say, I want to hear his last point real quick.
That to be can enter into the covenant of the Lord. That they can enter into... We're not descendants of Jacob. We're not from there. People who are not from there, people who are not descendants of Jacob, that they can enter into the covenant of the Lord. Many people are under the impression that to be a Jew or to be an Israelite, you have to be born one genealogically, that you have to be able to trace your lineage back. A lot of people say patrilineally. Some people say matrilineally. But this shows that that's not true.
And so let's just go to what his last point was. His last point was that it's not true that the only way to show that you're Israelite is to prove your lineage patrilineally, right? Real quick, before we even go into that, let's go to the book of Ezra, chapter 2 and verse 61, right? And it says this: and of the children of the priests, the children of Hebaiah, the children of Kaz, the children of Barzillai, which took a wife of the daughters of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and was called after their name, these sought their register among those that were reckoned by genealogy, but they were not found. Therefore were they as polluted, put from the priesthood. And I'll just grab this real quick See what it says in the NLT, just so it's a little bit more clear. So Salakia. Watch this real quick. Okay, so these are the families, right? They searched for their names in the genealogical records, but they were not found, so they were disqualified from serving as priests, right? The government told them not to eat the priest's share of food from the sacrifice until a priest could consult the Lord about the matter by using the Urim and Thummim, the sacred lots, right? So they had their genealogy had to be proven in order to be counted as Israelites. So it's 100%, 110% the genealogy. Even when you go to scriptures like Romans, right? Chapter 9, right? What does it say right here? Chapter 9 and verse 7, right? Romans chapter 9 and verse 7, it says, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So just because you come of Abraham doesn't mean you're a child of God, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So it's in Isaac that the seed is called, right? That is, they which are the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God, but the children of the promise are counted for the seed. So the children of the promise are the ones that's counted for the seed, right? And what and who does the promises pertain to? Verse 4, Romans 9 and 4, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, so being adopted back, and the glory, and the covenants, like he just said, the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of God, and the promises. So the only people that are able to be a part of the promises and the covenant are those who are of the seed of Isaac, specifically the Israelites, right? So let's get back to the Deuteronomy, the topic at hand, right? And this is very easy, very, very easy to break down. This should not take too much thought, right? So let's hear what Moses says. He says, keep therefore the words of the covenant and do them, right? That ye may prosper in all that you do, right? So again, keep the words of the covenant and do them. What is the word of the words of the covenant? The law, but we're going to get into that. Ye stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your captains and your tribes, your elders, your officers, with all the men of Israel. Salakia. And all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in thy camp, from the hewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water, that thou shouldest enter into a covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath which the Lord thy God maketh with thee this day. Right. So first. You now, of course, they're going to strangers to say that the strangers will be able to would be a part of the covenant of Israel. And I want to tell you this real quick. You cannot prove, I repeat, you cannot prove that this is an actual Israelite. I mean, that this is an actual heathen. Look, I'm not even saying I believe it isn't an Israelite, but I'm just saying, I'm saying I believe it's an Israelite, but I'm just saying you actually can't prove that from the text whatsoever, right? Again, so just real quick, when you go to the Salakia again, it's kind of, when you go to the word stranger, so that star, right? In Deuteronomy, let's look at this word. For the same word stranger, it's H1616, right? The same stranger that when you go to Leviticus chapter 25 and 35, where it says this, and if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee, right? So if your brother, that's an Israelite, right? Clear understanding of it being your brother, because it tells you right here, this same brother, in verse 39, it says this same brother cannot be served as a bondservant. But the ones that served as a bondservant would be the heathen. So this is clearly your brother, right? In verse 35, right? But it's the same word, again, H1616. Again, it says sojourner, temporary inhabitant, newcomer, lacking inherited rights, of foreigners in Israel, though conceded rights, right? Check this out. Let's jump to Leviticus 25. Up, and there we go, 35. Stranger. Though he be a stranger, an Israelite can also be called ger as well. So just in the word itself, it doesn't show that it's talking about someone outside of it being an Israelite, right? And just to show you that there's also been sojourners amongst Israel all over, all the time, right? Here we go. Here's a prime example. This is Judges chapter 17 and verse 7. It says this: and there was a young man out of Bethlehem, Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. Where did he sojourn? He sojourned in the land of Ephraim, right? And the man departed out of the city from Bethlehem to sojourn where he could find a place. And he came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, as he journeyed, right? So this is a sojourner, right? This is a stranger to the land of Ephraim, because he's a Levite from Bethlehem, Judah. You see what I'm saying? Prime example of someone being a stranger or a sojourner and still being a part of the land, right? So let's go back to the text real quick, and I don't want to make this too long. But as we get here, so you can't really even prove that this is actually talking about someone of another nation, right? And I could just actually jump to this next point in showing it, to say, even if this were, let's just say if this had included a stranger into this text, right? Let's just say if it were. There's nothing in this that tells you, not even verse 12, that tells you that the heathen are a part of the covenant of Israel. There's nothing that says it, that thou shouldst enter into the covenant. That's speaking to Israel, right? Here's why. And the most important thing is understanding verse 9, where it says, keep therefore the words of this covenant and do them, that ye may prosper in all that you do, right? Because what are the words of the covenant? The words of the covenant is the law, right? Let's just talk real quick, right? This is Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 2, and it says, the Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb, right? That's when the Most High God gave us the 10 commandments. The Lord made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us, who are all of us here alive this day. The Lord talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time to shew you the word of the Lord, for ye were afraid by reason of the fire, and went not up into the mount, right? So what do we see, right? The Most High, this is when the Most High gave him the 10 commandments, right? 10 commandments are read to him, so on and so forth. It's too much for him. So the Most High only had Moses write the 10 tables of stone, right? Other to 2 tables of stone, right? And it just goes on to tell you what they are, right? This is Deuteronomy chapter 9 and verse 8, and it says, also in Horeb ye provoked the Lord to wrath, so that the Lord was angry with you with you to have destroyed you. When I was gone up into the mount to receive the tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. So the 2 tables of stone, those are the tables of the covenant, which the Lord made for you. Then I abode in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I neither did eat bread nor drink water. And the Lord delivered unto me 2 tables of stone written with the finger of God. And on them was written according to all the words which the Lord spake with you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And it came to pass at the end of the 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. All right. So the tables of stone are the tables of the covenant. That's the covenant of Israel. That's why it's an Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is an ark that contains that has the covenant contained inside of it. You see what I'm saying? Along with Aaron's staff and the Urim and Thummim, if I'm not, and the manna, right? Aaron's rod. So we understand that that the Ark of the Covenant, that the two tables of stone that we see being written in Horeb with the finger of God, that's the covenant. That's what the Israelites are under. That's the words of the covenant. You see what I'm saying? Let's keep going real quick. Let's actually go to Salak. Let's go to Exodus 34. And it's just to double down real quick. Exodus chapter 34 and 27, it says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Write thou these words, for after the tenure of these words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel." You hear that? With the tenure of these words, I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel, not with anybody else. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. The words of the covenant, the covenant that was to be made with God and Israel, that's the covenant right there. The 10 commandments, right? And the 10 commandments, they represent all of the commandments, right? That the Most High God made with the children of Israel, right? So just understand this real quick. The 10 commandments that were written on the tables of stone, that's the covenant with God and Israel, right? And many people believe this is talking about the strangers, right? So let's jump to Deuteronomy 29 again. Let's go start at verse 1. And it says this: "These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant which he made with them in Horeb." Again, Deuteronomy, second law, he's just saying it again, just reestablishing it, because he already established it in Horeb as we read, right? So again, these are the words of the covenant. That's him just saying the law, right? So the law, the words of the covenant that the children of Israel were under, right? Here is the nuclear bomb, right here. Here's a nuclear bomb right here, for anybody that says, that shows that the other nations are on it, that they're part of the covenant as well. It's not the case, and I'm about to show you why. Here's why. This is Nehemiah chapter 13 and verse 3, and it says this. Let's start at verse. Oh man, I wish I could just. No. You know what? Let's start at verse 1. On the day they read in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite Moabites should not come into the congregation of God forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our God turned the curse into a blessing. Verse 3. Now it came to pass, when they heard the law, they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. What did they do? Now it came to pass, when they heard the law, they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. So when Israel was amongst the mixed multitude, when they heard the law, what is the law? The covenant. That's the law. The law of God is the covenant of Israel. Right? So when they heard it, they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. So the mixed multitude was actually separated. They weren't together with Israel. The whole time when the law is being brought out, the mixed multitude was put apart. They were separate. Israel was sanctified from the other nations, from the mixed multitude. So despite there being a mixed multitude, which I don't argue there was, you see what I'm saying? The law itself was only given to Israel. So when you read in Deuteronomy and you see this being expressed in chapter 29, where the Most High is talking to them, watch this. And it says, "Keep therefore the words of this covenant and do them, that you may prosper in all that you do." He can't be talking to the strangers because they were separated. The strangers that are separated they're not with Israel. They're not. Look, back to verse 12. "That thou shouldest enter into the covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath which the Lord thy God made with thee this day." Again, the covenant is the law. So when we read Deuteronomy chapter 9, Exodus 34, and other verses that I brought out that talk about it, what do we all understand? That the covenant of Israel, that the covenant that the Most High God made with Israel is the law. And when he read this law to them, he separated the other nations from them. To show that shows you how exclusive the law of Moses was solely for the Israelites. It's exclusive to the Israelites, not to any one of the other nations, right? With that, we can keep on going actually, because I'm not done yet. But I want to grab a few other precepts, and again, I'm just going as the Spirit leads me. But real quick, let's go to the book of Psalms, right? Chapter 147, classic right here. So yeah, 140. No, not 147. Yeah, 147 and verse 19. And it says this: He sheweth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. Here's the another nuclear bomb. He hath not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So look, we just read that when God gave the law to Israel, he separated them from the mixed multitude. So the strangers that people are saying are heathen, Israel has been separated from them to hear the laws of God. So they can't be under the covenant. But not only that, we see scriptures where the scriptures double down and say that the Lord had gave his laws and his statutes unto Jacob, unto Israel, and he had not dealt so with any other nation, meaning no other nation of people took part in hearing the laws of God except for the children of Israel. So it's impossible for there to have been, for the mixed multitude to be now a part of Israel, because they couldn't even have heard the word, the laws being told to Israel, because they were separated. They are not a part of the body of Israel. You see what I'm saying? They are not a part of it. They are excluded. You see what I'm saying? Let's grab another one real quick. Matter of fact, Joel chapter 2 and 27, it says this: And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. Very simple, right? That's literally it. That's the covenant the Most High made with Israel. With no other nation has he made that with. Amos 3 and 2. You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for your iniquities, for all your iniquities. Again, God only claims Israel. He only knows the Israelites. That's why he will punish them for all their iniquities, because that's a part of the covenant. Right? That's literally a part of the covenant. So again, when you go to verses, when you go to chapters like Deuteronomy, or books like Deuteronomy, 29, we see that this covenant that's being established is only for Israel, right? And what do we see in Deuteronomy 27? I think this is another one. Watch this. This is Deuteronomy 27 and 26, and it says, Cursed be he that confirmeth not all the words of the law of this law to do them, and all the people shall say, Amen. Right? And who are all these people? Let's see. This is look at this. And it says, And Moses with the elders of Israel, start at verse 1, Deuteronomy 27 and 1. And Moses with the elders of Israel commanded the people, saying, Keep all the commandments which I command you this day, and it shall come to pass, and it shall be on the day when ye shall pass over Jordan unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, that thou shalt set thee up great stones and plaster them with plaster, and thou shalt write upon them all the words of the law which thou art passed over, that thou mayest go into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and the land that floweth with milk and honey, as the Lord God of thy fathers hath promised thee. Right? Therefore it shall be when ye be gone over Jordan, that ye shall set up these stones which I command you this day, in Ebal, and thou shalt plaster them with plaster, and there shalt thou build an altar unto the Lord thy God, an altar of stones, that thou shalt not lift up any iron tool upon them. Let's keep going. What's the point? Peace offerings. Okay, watch this. Verse 9. And Moses and the priest, Moses and the priest and the Levites spake unto all Israel. It didn't say he spoke unto anybody else. Only all Israel, saying, Take heed and hearken, O Israel. This day thou art become the people of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt therefore obey the voice of the Lord thy God, and do his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day. So we see that the Israelites are the ones that the covenant is with. It's there's no other way to put it. It's obvious as hell. God doesn't even deal with the other nations, right? All the Lord was saying was pretty much when it comes to you doing how you operate, everything that the Israelites have, it doesn't mean that the heathen are just gonna always be in suffering. The heathen are servants. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna serve the Israelites, right? So it says, your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in thy camp, from the hewer of wood unto the drawer of thy water, right? He's telling you that you're gonna prosper in everything that you do, right? And them being an extension, meaning being like a second class citizen, a part of your household, they're gonna prosper, but not like you though. You see what I'm saying? So like, and that's how it's always supposed to be done. The Israelites on top, the other nations follow the Israelites, right? There's literally certain things that that an Israelite can't do that an heathen can do. What's one of them? Deuteronomy 14:21. Ye shall not eat anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is within thy gates, that he may eat it, or thou mayest sell it unto an alien. You literally can't eat something that dies of itself, but a heathen can. That automatically shows that we're not the same. This law couldn't have been like it literally, it doesn't even make sense. You see what I'm saying? This is just the law of telling the Israelites how they ought to treat someone of another nation, how they ought to operate. You know what I'm saying? And also, if you want to be honest, you can enslave a stranger. You can make a stranger a bondman, but you can't do it to your brother. These are two separate standards here. We're talking about third-class citizens, and we're talking about the children of God. No, a third-class citizen does not become a child of God. Right? So again, if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Right? Jump forward, jump down. Start at verse 39, right? And it says, and if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, but as an hired servant, and as a sojourner he shall be with thee, and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. It's very simple, right? So he can't be a bondservant. Here's where your bondservants come from. Verse 44. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy. You can buy those strangers. And of their families that are with you, which they beget in your land, and they shall be your possession, and ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. Classic example that just because it says a stranger, even if you hear the word stranger in the same context as a covenant, it doesn't mean that they're in the that they're under the covenant. They're meant to be second-class citizens. There's literally no purpose of them. How can a heathen be considered an Israelite when there's laws that pertain to a heathen that are exclusive, that are exclusively for them and not the Israelites? So how could if a heathen comes in amongst Israel, he can't just eat pork. He has to eat what the Israelites eat. But because he's not a part of their standard, he can eat something that dies of itself, or he can be a slave. An Israelite can't eat pork, can't eat anything that dies of itself, and he can't be a slave. So just because you see heathen mingling amongst the Israelites or being a part of them does not make them a Jew. Doesn't make them an Israelite at all. You see what I'm saying? That's it. It does not make them one of the Israelites. Last thing, Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 7, verse 8, and it says, I'll just read this and then we cut it off. This is Hebrews 8 and 8, and it says, "For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." Right? Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continue not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. So again, we understand that the old and new covenant is for the Israelites. That's it. Lord willing, this edifying video through the Spirit, man. I hope this gave some context on everything, on the whole thing with Deuteronomy 29, which is a stumbling block for a lot of people. But it's very simple. Just because you hear certain words being expressed, just because you hear stranger in the same context as covenant, it does not mean that they're even a part of the covenant. That's what Christians use to find a way to usurp the heathen into the commonwealth and the blessings of Israel. And we don't got to do that, right? Lord willing, edifying video through Spirit. Kwame Shalom.